Hello and welcome to round one of the Skill Issue Fantasy Series 2000. We are at Donington Park for this first round in these very squirrely IndyCar cars, which are just a nightmare to try and get everything going. But let's talk about this lap. Turn one is a tight right-hander, deceptively tight right-hander, I would say. It's always a bit more of a turn than you might think at first glance until you get some practice, which I don't. And this first sector is dominated by this left-right sweeping section. And that right-hand corner that we just passed is such a great corner because you can put a lot more speed down than you might think. The sweepers come to an end here on another surprisingly tight right-hander, going uphill to a blind right-hand turn with possibly some more runway to get out of than you might think, but very difficult to put the right amount of power down and almost make contact with the traffic here, going along the back straight towards the chicane. Now these curbs will wreak havoc on the underside of a low-slung car such as this, so really just asking for danger. And the track ends with these two back-to-back hairpins, right and then left, and it slows traffic down a whole lot, but does also open up for the opportunities of dive bombs and overtakes. This final left-hand hairpin to finish the track now, and as you power down the start finish straight, you just gotta be careful putting the power down. And this lap, good enough for pole, but there is almost half a qualifying session left at this moment, so let's take a look at the actual standings. So when all is said and done, did end up taking P3 behind Ferrer and Terreno, two very legitimate names. I always love looking at these names because if you look down at P13, you got Maximum Pips, just the most badass name I've ever seen. I love this game so much. Let's get on to the race, yeah? So as I said, we've got a rolling start, just got to try and get the power moving forward correctly, which has always been an issue for me with these cars, but actually managing not to make an absolute hash of it. First corner holding P3, the car behind, really trying to take a sniff up the tailpipe. A little bit of contact, I think, in that moment, but holding the position tight, staying on the back of the car of Ferrer in P2, coming into this right-hand corner here. A little bit dicey, honestly. I wasn't super comfortable putting all the speed down that I could because I don't want to bin the car in the first sector of the first lap of the first race. You know, it's bad form because then I would just have to end the race there after a few seconds. But as we come up to the blind right-hander, again, just focusing on putting the power down correct, losing it a little bit through that long right corner, but coming down the straight too far, it turns out, for slipstream, so just got to try to make up some speed in the chicane. And there she goes. There's the back end stepping out. That's not foreshadowing. Heading towards the first hairpin. They're too far ahead of me. And honestly, I'm not super confident in the ability of my left and right foot to do the things I needed to do. That's going to come with practice. Now coming for the last hairpin of the first lap. Holding on to P3, which is not excellent, but it's also not terrible. Unfortunately, this would be the position for a long while, so I'm going to jump ahead now. And we are on to the fifth lap of the race, about 6 minutes in, still holding the same position, still holding the same fight into the chicane, clipping the curb on exit, and there goes the back end, spinning out, not so far off that I hit the wall or anything, but losing a ton of positions, in the end down to P9, thanks to the overabundance of power coming off the curb with the little hop and skip the car was doing. But we're going to stick with it because A, there's still 2/3 of the race plus for it to go before it's finished, and 2, because there's always something to fight for, and I'm not that far back off of Jimmy Vase in P8, so we are going to stick with it. Now putting the power down pretty decent on the start finish straight, outbraking myself a little bit more than normal into that, well, not outbraking, but certainly braking later than I would have done normally for the sake of saving tires. And as we come into these sweepers, first right, left, not losing position on the second right, we're going to take a little bit of bonus power into that corner, take him on the inside, becomes the outside, getting that position back up to P8 again, even though, you know, a lap ago that was in P3. We're just going to live with it. Now we're going to come along the straight here towards this blind right-hander, and there is a 4-car cluster ahead, which if you play this game, you know that some shit is gonna go down. So it's just a matter of sticking to your guns, keeping the pace, and as we enter the chicane, you'll see the purple car's gone off. There was contact, so that's a free position. I will gladly take it, and taking P7, although the heartbreak of, you know, spinning off a lap earlier, trying to reclaim some of that lost time. So it is moving forward 1 lap, still in P7, still chasing down the back of the car of Mr. Confetti up ahead, and there is contact into the chicane. That slows him down. I'm almost making contact myself, getting the power down as smoothly as I can while still trying to push it a bit, and I decide I'm gonna take it on the inside, small lockup on the front right. Little unfortunate, Jimmy Vase also overtakes Mr. Confetti, and we are finishing lap 7 in P6. So the next 10 minutes came and went, still holding on to P6. I was not comfortable at any point in trying to make an overtaking maneuver. As we come into the chicane, you'll see the cars are just battling. I get the curb again, putting the power down too much again, hitting the grass again, and unable to control it as well as last time, unfortunately. This was a real risky re-entry, not something you want to do if you're online or anything like that. And hey, wouldn't you know it, back down to P9, car sniffing up the back, going to try not to make contact, and coming, oh, there's contact, whoops, but coming away in P9 once again with a third of the race left. There is still something to fight for, it's just unfortunately going to be a bit sloppy. So we are finishing lap 15, starting lap 16, back down in P9, but we're going to stick with it because, again, there's always something to fight for, and that purple car ahead, I remember, is the one that went off after making contact. So on the hope that there's some damage, some tire wear, some lockup, something for me to use as motivation to catch up, just gonna pummel through this corner and hopefully make up some ground, which it does appear to be getting closer. You love to see that. So we're coming to the end of the sweepers, having made up not a small amount of gap, going into the blind right-hander here. Gonna try and outbrake myself without causing damage to the tires, and as we get onto the pre-chicane straight, if you like, possibly within slipstream distance, but even if that's not the case, I know there's a chicane and 2 hairpins to slow the car down, and taking advantage of the chicane, almost making contact. It's still a little close, trying to give space, ultimately boxing him out of the corner, taking hairpin 1 ahead of the purple car up to P8 after yet another slide onto the grass. Reddit always told me to touch grass, so I thought, fuck it, why not, you know? Finishing lap 16 in P8. Unfortunate considering starting in 3rd position, but we'll take what we can get. So after a few more minutes, with about 6.5 minutes of race left, we are on lap 19, and there is another cluster of cars, 4 cars to be exact, within pretty tight contention of each other, into the blind right-hander. They slow each other up, and that is free positions for me. Free with an F, not 3 the number. I'm only up to P7 because blue flag cars get in the way, and that is the beauty of sticking it through a race. 2 slides is not enough to take you out. You just got to keep going. Up to P7 with 6 minutes left to go on the 19th lap. just a little bit later now at the end of the 20th lap on the final sector of that lap, going into the hairpin and getting close. So I'm thinking this is the time to make a move. Too ambitious with the throttle, and hey, it's the grass again. And hey, it's P8 again. Once again, looking at the back of the red car at Jimmy Vase. Honestly, these things happen. I wasn't really expecting to get points, but there is some time left. Gonna fight out to see what I can get. And the rewards come in short order. Just a minute later, we catch up to the back markers and we slow up traffic real bad. That gives me the opportunity to, well, to almost lose the back end again, but to make up a position in the ruckus. And another blue flagged car causing traffic allows me to take the inside past Jimmy Vase up to P6 once again. Now all I gotta do is keep the car pointed in the right direction for 3 minutes. That should be fine, right? And as around the corner at the end of the 23rd lap, there's half a minute left to go. So that means it will be the final lap, holding on to P6. Not a lot left for me to say here, so I'm just going to let this last lap play out and get back to yapping once we get the final standings.
Gap to Boss behind is now 1.2 seconds. Alberto has taken the win. Sixth place. That's it. We're done. Bad luck. The big ragu.
So in the end, claiming P6, which is honestly pretty good considering how bad I drove. Terreno, Fierro, and Ferrer rounding out the top 3. And Peter Racy, another Canadian boy in the top 10. Don't you love to see that? So normally this is where I would talk about the standings, any changes, but since it was just the first race, there are no changes. We just have the standings. Happily taking P6 on what could have been just a terrible race, but we'll take it. Now up next will be the second round in Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring. Difficult track, a lot of elevation, a couple of blind turns in the middle there, so hopefully, I can keep all 4 tires going the right way on this race. Time will tell though, I don't have a lot of hopes. I'm very bad at this. But until then, thanks for watching, have a good day, make good choices, and bye.